Welcome to Winning on Wednesday. My name is Juan Vitas. I'm the founder of Winning on Wednesday. Winning on Wednesday is a platform that meets every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the purpose we're there to is to build meaningful relationship, expand and your business, and promote your brand. Our brand marketing is different from any other networking group where we really should promote our members rather than promote the organization. So we really like to highlight and promote our members. And today, and I always say, there's another thing that I always say, people do business who they know, like, and trust, and know it and like it and trust. And I would like to introduce one of my guests today, David Goldberg. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Juan.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Well, I'm born and raised on Long Island, from the South Shore originally. Now migrated to the North Shore, not when I got married. Um, I've always been like a creative person. I grew up as a musician, growing up on Long Island, playing piano. I figured I'll be the next Billy Joel, right? Why not? And when I was in college, I realized that probably wasn't going to happen. I gravitated towards music, but also just creative stuff. So I majored, I was at Hofstra and I majored in uh, TV and film production with a minor in music. And upon graduating, got involved in a lot of different types of creative areas, sort of exploring the different mediums that were out there, and ultimately landed in video production in the 90s, and just kind of went from there. And obviously
Wow.
the industry and the platforms have changed, and things became more accessible at a lower cost. So here we are today. I started the business in 1993, Digital Waterworx Corporate Communication Production. And I guess we'll get into more about what I do later on. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So tell us about where it all got started, where it all began. Where did where were you born, and tell us where
Yeah.
you were raised, all
So,
that.
well, I said I was born and raised in Long Island. Technically, I was born in Queens. I lived in Laurelton for the first 3 years.
Nice.
Then my family moved out to Belmore. So I'm affectionately known as a Belmoran. Uh,
How old were you when you moved to Belmore?
three, three
Oh,
years
three. So
old. Yeah.
so you really don't remember as much.
I don't have I like some. I think the memories are triggered more by photographs and old 8 millimeter movies or Super 8 movies from Laurelton. But yeah, I mean, my parents used to talk about living there. They lived there for about 8 years, and they really enjoyed their time there. Had a nice community of people. When I moved out to Long Island, at the age of three. Um, the I guess, like my inspiration for what I did was my mom was a teacher, but she was also a musical, very musical and artistic. My maternal grandfather was a commercial sign painter. He did everything, and this is before the day now we have vinyl and vinyl printing and wraps and stuff like that. This is way before that in the
Right.
50s. He did truck lettering and store window lettering
Oh,
and all
wow.
kinds of, yeah, billboards. There's he actually, one very cool thing. He painted a couple of Macy's balloons. This is not the balloons we're thinking about today. This goes back into the late 50s, early 60s. But he actually painted a Pepsi bottle that was probably 30 feet, maybe 40 feet. One guy. He just
Wow.
And I actually have film of him painting that, among other things. So so that's where that was creative and artistic. And then on my dad's side, my dad was an entrepreneur. He was in sales, commercial sales of a variety of different products. But his dad, uh, both my grandparents were immigrants, but my paternal grandfather came to this country and typically with 50 bucks in his pocket, and built a business in commercial lighting. And my dad eventually went into the same field. He didn't work for my grandfather, but he went into the same industry. And so I guess I get the business acumen, that entrepreneurial spirit from
It,
really both, because the
it,
painter grandfather was an entrepreneur as well, but the artistic, creative side, I definitely get
and
on the maternal side. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, where do your grandfathers came from?
So my maternal grandfather, the sign painter Harry, he came from Berlin.
Oh, wow.
His path was Berlin, and then in the late 30s to Israel, where he met my grandmother. She was also from Germany, and they fled, in the beginning of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So both of them met in Israel,
Wow.
where they got married, had my mom. So my mother was actually born in Israel.
Oh, wow.
And my mom came here in 1940. She was, I'm sorry, 47 or 48. She was like 7 years old when she came here. And so that's when they all came here. And then my grandfather on my dad's side, he was from Poland. And similar story, he was very young. He owned a very small bicycle shop in the small town in Poland that he was from. And when things started to get really bad, he was lucky enough to get sponsored, and he came to the U.S. Not through Ellis Island, but through immigration. Funny story there. So my last name is Goldberg. When he came to this country, his last name was Radanowski. That was his
Wow.
Polish name, and they in those days in the 30s, they apparently gave you like sort of the ability to pick a new name right then and there. And he had heard of a relative. He had never met this relative, but he heard a story that there was a relative named Goldberg who lived in Chicago and apparently was very successful in whatever he was doing. So my grandfather figured that might be a good name in the U.S., so he picked the name Goldberg. So I actually have no blood relatives with the name Goldberg past, my dad.
Wow. 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 Fascinating story.
Yeah.
It's an
And
amazing
being
story.
a Goldberg in New York, everybody's like, "Oh, Goldberg. Oh, so do you know the so and so?" I was like, "Nope, no,
Yeah. You're
not
not, so
related."
you're telling me you're not related to the wrestler? I mean, go,
Well,
go.
not related to Bill Goldberg, and I'm not related to Whoopi Goldberg either.
That's funny. That's funny. So did you tell us about your hobbies or interests? Did you have any hobbies or interests, or I mean, in the aspirations when
Yeah,
you let yeah.
my biggest hobby growing up was music. I
Okay.
played piano. I started taking piano lessons at the age of 5. I was writing music, around that age. I'm not really, wasn't anything that was radio worthy at the age of 5, but I began being creative like that and coming up with little tunes. And I actually copyrighted my first song at the age of 8.
Oh wow.
Called Bubblegum Rock. And it's funny, I meet friends or I meet people who I knew back then, elementary school and stuff, and they'll come up to, I haven't seen them in 40 years or whatever, and they'll be like, Bubblegum Rock,
Is it still
so
out there?
well, it was never officially recorded, but
Oh,
but
okay.
I used to play it all the time. So all those old friends and stuff, they still associate me with this Bubblegum Rock, which
Well,
it's
for fun, you should record it. Just a place to them,
that would be funny, right? And just put it on YouTube or something and see how many.
TikTok. Hey, you
Yeah,
never
yeah.
know. It could go viral. You never
Right.
know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Actually, there are recordings. I mean, my mother had like, tape recorder recordings of me playing. It's amazing. That's what I need to find. I need to find one of those like old archives from 1973 or four.
That,
Put it out there. So, but my hobby was music. Later on in high school, I was writing a lot and recording with friends it's I look at what's available today in terms of technology and my kids are musicians and you can with an iPad or even an iPhone you've got GarageBand and you can record all these amazing parts and it's digital, the quality is so good. Back when I was in high school, the big thing for me was getting a little 4-track recorder so I could record 4 separate parts and what we had to be creative and figure out how to make that sound good. But let's say the Beatles were using 4 tracks when they first started as well. So actually they were using less than 4 tracks when they started. But it forced you to really think about how you produced and recorded music, which I think is what helped me plant that foundation for really the future and where we are today. And I was fortunate to come up like in college. When I got into college in 1985, the recording, some of the classes I took in recording were still reel to reel tape. And for those of you who are not of my age and really living in a cave, that's the old big tape deck that had 2 reels that would turn. And the way you edited that was literally with a razor blade. You would cut the tape with a
Wow.
razor blade. You'd have to rock the reels, and it would sound like when you scratch a record, you know, whir, 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 whir. You'd find where you want to make that edit, and then you literally would take the tape off the deck, cut it with a special plate, and then make your splice. Oh, it was like Wild West, you know.
Wow.
And but that's where I started learning. And soon after, that was 85. By the late 80s, 88, 89, digital was already becoming a thing. It was expensive and it was sort of the new technology, so it wasn't widely adopted. But that's when things really started to get fun, because now there was an undo button. You didn't actually have to cut something and destroy it. It was called non-destructive editing. So yeah, that's when
The,
I
the
mean, you did,
struggle is real, basically. Yeah, I mean,
it just it afforded you the opportunity to try things that you normally
right.
wouldn't do, yeah, or wouldn't be able
Exactly.
to do. Yeah,
Well, even with the photographies, right? Remember that you
same
got to go
thing.
to the dark room and just develop the photography. And now we could just develop in our phones. I mean, I thought it was always fascinating to develop the pictures on the computer digitally on the camera and then upload it to your computer. I thought that was amazing. I was like, at
Right.
first when it first came out, you thought it was like, wow, it was like the cool thing. You could actually see it. But now on the phone, it's just like a novelty. It just became like everything. Everybody has it now, so it
Well,
became
you know,
kind of easy.
a roll of film, right, where you bought a 35 millimeter film was 24 exposures, or if you had
Yes.
24, 36, and if you had, and that was a good camera. If you had, you know, the old
It,
Instamatics, where it's the cartridge of film, and you play, I think that was 12 or 16 exposures. So you think about
it,
going, oh, let
it,
me run to 7-Eleven, I
it,
need to get film. And you put in your
it,
camera, you took 12 pictures, and it was done. And
it,
then you didn't get to see those pictures till you mailed that out or brought it to
it,
Photomat or whatever. You wouldn't get to see the fruit of what you
it,
took for a week.
you probably remember this. Remember if the remember the when you put the roll and if it opened, you get
Oh,
exposure.
done.
It done exposure.
Your history is all, it's garbage. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Right. You
So,
went to a party, right? And then afterwards you pulled it out and you're like, oh my
oh my
God, what did
God.
I get? Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't, like you say, you can't. There's no undo button from there.
Yep.
So tell us about you mentioned school. What was your major in school, by the way?
So major was communication. I was in the School of Communication at Hofstra. I majored. Interestingly enough, I started out in television, in TV, and my minor. So I was communications with a what do they call it? A concentration on television, with a minor in business. After my second year, I got the business classes were starting to give me a challenge. Math was not one of my strong areas. So, and I also got a job that summer at a company that I wound up staying at for 6 years, and that was Korg USA, which is the U.S. distributor for Korg electronic musical instruments, and they make synthesizers and drum machines and all kinds of products for the pro audio, pro musical market. You watch concerts on TV. If it's KORG, you'll see the products all over the place. Sort of coinciding with ending my second year of college and getting this, which was supposed to be a summer job, I decided to change my track from television to film, and I switched my minor from business to music. So I graduated with a communication degree, with a music minor, music production minor. And I graduated, and I stayed at Korg until 1993. And I worked I had a few different roles there. I started in product support, tech support. It grew that department and became the manager of that department, and then moved over. They had formed a new division in 1991, a pro audio division that just sold to television, radio stations, recording studios, post-production facilities. And I love that. I loved that part of the industry. I loved the people in the industry that I met. And I traveled a lot. I was in my my early 20s, 24, 25. and I got to go. My territory was every state east of the Mississippi. So I traveled. I was on the road roughly 3 weeks out of each month, and I would be in the office for 1 week doing follow-ups. And I wasn't in sales. I was in. It was an application engineer was my title, which sounded really fancy. Basically, it was sales support. I wasn't the salesperson to close the deal. I was the one going out with the salesperson. I was the product know-it-all guy. I did the demos. I would move into the facility. We were selling a product that was very expensive for the time. It was $37,000 digital audio workstation. So we would go to Viacom, or we would go to a CBS radio station, and I would literally move in there and work with them for anywhere from 2 to 4 days. And they would install the product and integrate it fully into their studio so they could get a real feel. It was a test drive, but it was not a 1 hour test drive. It was a 2, 3, 4 day test drive. And I would be the one in the beginning. The first day, I would operate it myself and show them how it would work. And going from there, I would kind of wean myself away and sort of train their staff. And they didn't even buy it yet, but train them. And then hopefully after that experience, their management would say, yeah, we like the system. It's great. We're going to buy it. After it was sold, I would go back and then do an intensive training with them for, up to a week. And then I was also available to them. I had a beeper. Remember beepers?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I had a pager, and I was available to them. Part of the contract was 24/7 support, and a lot of production facilities, especially TV stations and radio stations, are 24-hour operations. So, and usually they're less qualified or less technical staff work the shitty hours. So it wasn't uncommon, and it wasn't uncommon for me to get paged at 2 o'clock in the morning, on a Wednesday, that they got stuck on something, and I had to help them out. So it was a wild time. I loved the industry. I loved those people. And ultimately what led to my leaving the company was my I wanted to be like them. I loved what I was doing Monday through Friday, on the road. The traveling was all pre 9/11, so it was much easier to travel. I would sometimes show up at an airport 20 minutes before the flight and just jump on the plane. With a backpack. I wasn't married. It was a good time for me to be doing all that stuff in my life. But the one thing I yearned for was I wanted that creativity all the time, not just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when I was just showing these people how to use the equipment. I wanted to use it every day, and I wanted to be creative for myself on my projects, not on theirs. So, I kind of I was 26, I think, and I got 27, and I just got itchy. I just got the itch. And I remember telling my boss, I said, because my dad was a business person, an entrepreneur, he had me put together a business plan with projections. How am I going to make my business work, and how's it going to generate income? And, because you can't just do this for fun. It's not a hobby. That's not to say your job can't be something you enjoy, right? And I left in 93, and I told my boss I'm leaving, and his response was, "What are you going to do?" Like, almost as if, there was no other option but to work for him. And I said, I'm actually going to start a production company, and I would like to use the equipment that I'm selling. It was called the SoundLink. And I said, I'd like to build my production company around that. And they wound up selling me a SoundLink at the company's cost. The products were made in Japan, so they sold it to me for what it cost them to bring it in from Japan. And I was the only studio on Long Island in 1993 that had a system that advanced at my disposal. If you wanted something like that, you had to go to Manhattan and pay Manhattan rates. So that was a really big feather in my cap. And I didn't have to train anybody on how to use it. I mean, the day I started my business, I was fully operational. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's definitely a journey. I mean,
Yeah.
what brought back beepers? I mean, all I could say, you used to have a roll of quarters. I can imagine quarters because you needed to
Orders.
call back
Yep.
people. You know, it's
I
so.
still remember the beeper number, which
Oh,
is,
really?
yep. Yep.
Wow. Hey, I'm just out of curiosity. Is that company still around? The one that used to sell those equipments
Oh
for?
yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
huge. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, they're still
they're one
around.
of the leaders in yeah, their U.S. headquarters are in Melville,
Oh, wow.
ironically the same town that my studio's in. And yeah, they're an international company, Japanese owned. They have offices in every Western country you can imagine: Germany,
Wow.
Italy, Canada, Mexico. Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty amazing. Wow, it's pretty well. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
The one other thing that I like to say, this is the golden nugget time, and the golden nugget time I like to call is it's any valuable piece of information you'd like to leave behind, so it could better for a person to be a better business person or better themselves or better their careers. Any informations or
Yeah,
examples you want to share?
I mean, there's a few. There are a few tidbits or things that golden nuggets that I probably have subscribed to over the years. One of them, I haven't done it a long time just because I've gotten so busy, just professionally and personal life. But I used to have a Tuesday list, and during the week, when I would think about somebody or a company or something like that, I would make a list, and then and that started as a paper list and then became in my iPhone and my notes. And then on Tuesdays, I would spend the first 90 minutes of every Tuesday from usually 9 to 10:30 following up on that list, and it could be in the form of a phone call or an email, but it was some sort of touch point or contact. And that was a way for me to look for new business, but also that list was less of new prospects and it was more just recycling, reaching out to, and it could be friends, it could be clients, but anybody that sort of popped into my mind during the week, I literally just put on that list, and it would just make me think about it a few days later on Tuesday. And sometimes it was just, let's say a client we did a project for 3 years before, and I hadn't heard from them and we weren't in touch. It would just be a reach out. And it's nice to be able to say, oh, well, why Tuesday morning? I don't know. I mean, Monday, people are tired, cranky. They come to work late. They're still hungover from the weekend. Later in the week, everybody's busy with what's happening on in the week. It seemed to me that Tuesday was a good day. It was like still the beginning of the week, and when it was in the morning before things get too busy in their day, and it was an accessible time. It was a way. It seemed to be. I was able to get through to people, uh, well, without too many obstacles. So that Tuesday, I have to get back to that too, because like I said, it's been quite some time. It started during the pandemic. It was good because I was home and I was able to reach. I did it more than Tuesday, but I think once we got back to work after the pandemic and things got very busy for us, we moved to the facility we're at now during the pandemic. And so once we got into the new space and it was, setting things up and unpacking and doing business and production and being out and filming and whatnot, it just got put on the side. So I want to, and I need to get back to that. So
That's
that's
a
the, yeah.
No, that's a good advice and tips is follow through, even with connection, re-engage with people. I mean, exactly like look at us, for example. We've re-engaged
Yeah,
connected in a long time.
right.
It's also
I
it's
don't know how
always
long it was
because
since we did
but hey, it's never too late, And the thing
right.
is that it's always important to reconnect and to your network or people you haven't done connect to people. Reach out. Don't be scared. A
Yeah.
fear. Don't be
Even just
scared.
even
Yeah,
just just a quick email with no agenda,
absolutely.
not looking
On
for business, but hey
just
Juan,
how are
been
you?
been a million
Yeah.
years. Love seeing your posts on Facebook.
How
We should have some coffee sometime, or yeah.
I always say, how's the family? How you're doing? How you feeling? Because I'm always concerned, particularly also because you talk about mental health all the time. People talk about mental health and mental awareness. So my first question is, how are you doing? How are you feeling? That's my always question. I'm always concerned. I'm always thinking. So if you get a phone call from me, it's don't worry. I just following up. I'm not sales, no sales calls, but just call and see how you
But you
doing.
have to be prepared for the somebody to say, "Oh, it's
Oh,
terrible." I'm in.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
You
now
know
you
what?
become a psychologist at that,
Yeah, I
or
gotta tell you
that, or a
something.
bartender.
If you ever have a bad day, call up 20 people and your problem will feel so small.
Yeah,
After the 20th phone call, your problem will seem so minimal comparing to other people's problems that they've gone in real life. And I'm like, wow, like it's a really eye-opening experience because sometimes you're so closed-minded in your mind that you with your issues and your problems that you don't think there's another world out there. There's other people out there with other
yeah.
problems. You don't realize that, but it makes you aware. That's all. So
You're
it's a good
absolutely
thing.
right. You're
You
absolutely
definitely
right.
do. Yeah. Tell us about any. Do you belong to any other network organizations or spheres of influences or any people that you network with or connect
Yeah.
with or any,
I
any.
do. I do. When I started out back in '93, so it's 30 years ago, I was invited to a rather formal networking outfit that was based in Manhattan. It was a friend of mine belonged and said, "Oh, you should come as my guest." And I didn't really belong in that room. I was young, much younger than the members in the group. I was also really not an established business person at that time. I was just starting out. And everybody in this group was very significant in their industry. But the one cool thing about it was, I guess they liked my story, and a lot of the members sort of took me under their wing and mentored me a little bit and gave me advice and introductions. So I wound up getting some good business right off the bat from that group. And I stayed with that group for about 7 or 8 years, and then I stopped because of some just personal and growth in business. I wasn't really able to continue that. And I stayed out of formalized networking until about 3 years ago. Just trying to think, it was before, no, maybe more like four or five. And so that now I'm in ABA, in that
Yeah.
networking group.
Ellen Volpe is great. She's
Yeah,
awesome. She's
Ellen's group.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, she runs a bunch of different, they call them councils, and I'm in
You're
one of the
right.
councils. And so that's the formalized networking. I belong to some industry professional organizations. I'm not very active in them, but I do get the emails and the newsletters, and so we talk about best practices and just new things that are on the horizon in technology. So it's nice to stay, in
Absolutely.
that area. LinkedIn is good
Oh
to
yeah.
some extent. You can spend an entire day on LinkedIn. So same thing with Facebook for that matter. So you have to schedule when you're going to do that. And then I have a really strong network of colleagues and also clients. Many of my clients have been with me for a long time, and we've become not necessarily socially friendly. We don't go out for dinner and things, but we are social in the respect that I can call one of my clients if I know that they have a connection somewhere. I have that relationship, and I can say, hey Juan, I know you do business with so and so. Any chance I could be introduced because I'm looking to, and that happens a lot for me. So that type of network, I'm not sure what you call it, but
It's like a circle of friends, basically. It's a nice circle
yeah,
of friends that you have that you could trust. And I always say people that like and trust. So
yeah,
that's pretty good that you built your own ecosystem, so to
right,
speak. So
right.
that's really nice. So tell us about your production company. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so I mentioned that back when I started, it was video production, but that was in the early '90s, and to be able to afford the equipment to have a production studio back in the '90s, you really needed like $500,000 to even do anything uh, respectable. So I didn't own much equipment back then, other than that piece of equipment from Korg, and that was audio. So that allowed me to do audio productions and radio commercials and anything audio, anything commercial audio. I didn't do music. That was the one thing I missed. I wanted to do music, but it wasn't profitable enough for me at least to be able to run a music studio, because you're doing business with bands, and musicians don't have money, but businesses have money. So I was always chasing the video, and that was my formal education, was in video and film. So in the late 90s when Apple came out with the iMac and desktop video production became affordable, and Sony was coming out with digital video cameras. That was a turning point for me, because I was producing videos, but I wasn't touching the production. I was hiring a cameraman, I was hiring the lighting designer, and I was renting video editing studios. I was I was a client at a video editing studio that was charging hundreds of dollars an hour, and I'd have to go to Manhattan for the good editing. So my cost, or the cost of a video back in 1993, 4, 5, 6, 7, it was really expensive. And also the distribution. So you make this video. Let's say you make a video for the new mug, and you want to, talk about all the features of the mug and the shape and how do you get that out? You're not putting it on TV. There was no YouTube. So you had to make video cassettes, and then later DVDs, and then you have to mail those or send them FedEx or whatever. So the cost of distribution, just from top to bottom, the cost to produce videos was so unaffordable for most businesses. And then again, when desktop video came out, poof, now I can go out with a crew of not 8, I can go out with 2 or 3 people, film something, edit it myself. I don't have to pay $200 an hour in an editing suite in Manhattan. I can edit it myself. And in the beginning, author DVDs, but then later on, obviously YouTube and Vimeo, and there are other methods to distribute digitally. That cost factor was removed. So video just became much, much more obtainable for small businesses and even larger businesses that wouldn't do video because, we're not going to spend $50,000 on this video. That's crazy, but we'll spend $5,000. So the focus, really became video, really hard video in the late 90s, early 2000s, and still did a fair amount of audio production in terms of radio commercials, but video represents about 85% of our business. We do radio commercials for Pandora, Sirius XM, Pandora, same company. So a lot of the local ads that you might hear on Pandora or Sirius, if they're for tri-state area businesses, there's a good chance that we produce them here in the studio, in this studio. And then the videos we do are everything from, like I mentioned, product introduction videos. We do a lot of training. We do hiring on recruiting videos showing how great it is to work at this company, and we interview people within the organization, from C-suite down to the people who sweep the floors. We do a lot of work in the not-for-profit sector. For the last 12 years, we've produced all the videos for the Imagine Awards on Long Island, and that recognizes the efforts of the not-for-profit community on Long Island, all the way from the big not-for-profits, YMCA, United Way, down to grassroots organizations. So that's a really nice project that we've been involved with. We typically produce 25 videos for these organizations, and it gets shown at their gala in April or May every year. So that's kind of like the board. We have a brick and mortar facility here in Melville, 6,400 square feet. We produce podcasts. I'm actually in one of our podcast studios right now. We have a video shooting stage with a full green screen and lighting grid and teleprompters and all of that stuff. We have, I don't know if you can see it in the shot, but we have a voiceover room on that side with another audio studio beyond that. That's a really cool,
So it's not a fake background.
No. It's just,
It's real. It's real.
real. It's real.
Folks. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for sharing your stories. And if people want to learn more about you, what's the best way to contact you?
I have no idea. Probably, our website, which is kind of cool. The website was designed to give people an idea of what really happens here. It's not a sales website. It's more of like a showcase, a showroom of sorts, if you will. So the company is Digital Waterworx Productions. The website is waterworx.com, but we spell the works differently. So it's water, conventional, Water, works, Worx. So don't try to correct it. It's or don't let autocorrect correct it. So Waterworx, WATERWORX.com. And we have samples of every video that we produce, whether it be a TV commercial, a nonprofit for a gala, you name it, goes on our website. We have different categories. So yeah, go click around and everything that we do. We have our demo video for the studio is kind of like a day in the life. It's a 2-minute video, and it's a really rapid fire showing everything that goes on here. It wasn't filmed in one day, but that was the idea, was to kind of like, this is what happens here, or this is what could happen here in a course of a day. Yeah, it's
All right.
oh, you know
Well,
what? A couple of things. So I mentioned podcasts. We also do audiobooks. We have authors come in here and do audiobooks. And we have, because of where we're located, kind of like between the Hamptons and Manhattan, especially in the warmer months when the celebs are out in the Hamptons, we get a lot of celebrities that come in here to do projects, especially voiceover projects. They might be in their summer homes or vacationing, in the Hamptons, and they need to go into the city to do something, and they don't want to schlep all the way back to the city. So they Google, whatever production studios, and we come up and they're like, oh, I'll drive an hour and a half. That's no problem. So we've had Ralph Macchio here several times, although
wow.
he doesn't live in the Hamptons. He's closer to where we are. We've had a lot of voice actors who voice projects for Disney, old and young. We've had like child actors have come here, as young as like 9 years old. And they're not our clients. We get booked by Disney, Netflix, Apple TV. Those are all technically our clients because those are the people who are paying us. But it's cool, and we're very low key about it. We've had some really big names, and we treat them just like any other client coming in for a session, because they don't see what they're doing here as a big thing. They're coming just to lay down a line or a few lines for a promo or something. So yeah, that's been cool. I mean, it's not a large part of our business, but it's always kind of exciting. And we always know from like May to September that we're going to get these surprise phone calls. We got one, from Fox Sports. I'm not going to mention who it was, but Fox Sports called and they said, do you have availability on Friday at 3:00? We need to send somebody down to record something as a promo for a football piece. And yeah, sure. We didn't even ask who it was. And they weren't offering that information. So we said, yeah, we have the hour, no problem. And then, this person came down, no entourage, we're very cool, but a pretty significant figure in the pro football space, and didn't even like, we didn't even acknowledge when he got here. We didn't necessarily acknowledge how great he was. We were like, oh, hey, you are here, come on, do you want some water or do you want tea, or and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an interesting business. One thing I call myself hyper creative, and I would not be able to work a 9-to-5 job doing the same thing every day. It wouldn't even matter what that job entailed. I just can't do the same thing every day. So what I love about this business my business is that every day really, really is different. It truly is different. And I sometimes, will start out my day thinking it's going to go one way and it ends a totally different way. And I'm fine with that. I like that. I like to pivot. And I'm a problem solver. So I like when clients come to me with a challenge. Oh, we need to do this, but we're not sure how to execute it. Can you help us with this? I love that. I rise to that occasion all the time.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for sharing your story again. And if you'd like to be a member for Winning on Wednesday, simply go to www.winningonwednesday.com and click on the first time guest. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. It's been a great time. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan.